Sure enough, we sit down. He ordered the lobster bisque. And I guess it was the best lobster that had ever been bisqued. Because this man took a sip, and instead of just saying it was good, this man goes, "Oh." "Oh, okay." "Oh, is she thick?"
Hello and welcome back to Comedy Means Business. I'm Matt Grobar and my guest today is Josh Johnson, one of our hardest working comics who I named as one of the comics who won 2025. In the last decade, Josh has garnered great acclaim for his work on The Daily Show, first as writer, then correspondent, and eventually rotating host, all while maintaining an almost absurd level of output as a stand-up. Consistency being one of his big differentiators, he's become known for putting out an all-new topical hour of material weekly, over time coming to reach an online audience at a scale most comics would kill for. Last year, Josh sold out a massive global tour with zero promoter marketing spend, and in May, he released Symphony, his first HBO special that embodies his unique rhythm, warmth, and command. Here, Josh talks to me about his new comedy Bandcamp tour, creating at a pace all his own, and what this HBO moment means in the broader arc of his career. Josh Johnson, thank you so much for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So Symphony's just come out, right? It's an incredible special for HBO. Your first for them, your third overall. You called the special when we reported on it your breakout piece. So I'm curious, like, what about this one feels different? Like, does it feel like a culmination or a reset of a sorts? Like, what does it represent in terms of your career?
I guess a couple things. One, I think what sets it apart from what I've been doing and what I do on YouTube week to week is that it's meant to be, I keep using the word timeless, but it's true. It's like it's meant to be a bit more timeless in how it's digested by people. And my hope is that years from now, people who may not even be aware of who I am can come in contact with it and enjoy it. And that's why it has such a evergreen feel to it. And I'm speaking so broadly about the topics that I talk about and everything. And the things that I do on YouTube week to week are meant to be more of the moment, more topical, and like my thoughts and feelings as a snapshot of where I feel like I'm at and where I feel like we're at. Mm-hmm. And then the other thing is I, as best as possible, was trying to note a certain change and an evolution in how I'd like to do things. You know, normally a comedian works on their hour on the road for the entirety of a tour. The tour ends, and then they do the special, hopefully in tandem with the tour ending. Maybe one of the last few shows of the special is the taping. Mm-hmm. I mean, one of the last few shows of the tour is the taping for their special, and they put it out. And then that hour that they put out is the best of what they toured, and a whole chapter is sort of like over in a way. And I'm trying to do a bit of the opposite, where Symphony is sort of to note a change and a new direction that I'm going in, and a new theme and sort of like era of work. And it leads into Comedy Bandcamp, which starts next month, and we'll have shows pretty much everywhere we can, like all over the US and overseas as well.
Yeah. So this is like a start of a new chapter. I guess you're thinking about your career as artistic a sense as maybe a special. Then, like, it seems like intentional, I think, is the word you use. You seem very intentional about the whole thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think what is intentional ends up being what's interesting, and so I want to make really interesting work, and so I have to be pretty focused and just aware of what the next step is, and make the next step something people are interested in checking out.
How would you define the last two specials and what they reflected in comparison to where you're at now?
I think that the very first one, the Comedy Central one, was a good snapshot of where I was and where I felt like the world was at, which is also why that one, to a degree, is not as timeless in my mind, because I felt like it would be wild for me to do a special in 2021 or 2022 and not mention the pandemic and something that we had just all got out of, and I still feel pretty confident that for the time that I was doing that in, I had some fresh and interesting takes on the things that were happening to all of us. And then as far as the second one, I felt like it was a good lead in, whether I noticed it or not, a good lead in to this moment that I was having where I had started putting things out and being really consistent weekly with sharing and building community and everything. And the intention around that entire special was to be a bit more vulnerable and open myself up to building community. And so while that one, I feel like the next few things that happened were slightly more inadvertent. This one is much more intentional in what I plan to do next.
What does the HBO brand mean to you? And I'm curious, like, if there was a defining HBO comedy viewing experience for you earlier in your life, maybe.
So, if I remember correctly, one of the first things that I watched on HBO as a kid was Home Alone. And I think Home Alone like left theaters and everything, and then it was on HBO for a while.
That's a big part of what the brand has been in some points in time. In particular, it's like you're going just back and rewatching movies on HBO. Yeah,
and so one of the main things I remember is that opening, man. That opening with the over like that cityscape and everything, and you hear the music and stuff like that, and you get a little peek into people's homes, but then you're flying over the hills and stuff, and then you see that feature presentation and everything. That was like, I just remember that feeling so epic, and I think that one of the best things about HBO is that they have a level of discernment around what it is they want to put out, whether it's movies or TV shows or specials. And so I think that whenever you do something with them, you know you're in good company around not just the people that they choose, but also the fact that they are being choosy.
Mm-hmm.
Like the fact that you'll be one of a few in an entire year is something that I think makes you, as any sort of creative putting things out, feel a bit more comfortable, and that you're taken care of, and that the work you're doing is valued, and that they're not just in a pure volume business.
Yeah, it feels like, to me, like they're becoming a home for elevated, like almost auteur-driven specials. Like I'm having Sarah Sherman in here later this week. Mm-hmm. Her specials with HBO's incredibly visual and wild and unique in ways that are totally different from yours. But like that is a cool thing, that they're encouraging real originality and sort of like visual risk-taking with a special.
Yeah, and I feel like there's something about what at least feels like an exclusivity that comes with being very deliberate in your choices. And I think that through that reputation that they built up over time, you then look at it as like, oh, this is an HBO show, this is an HBO limited series. Like, what did they choose, or what did they see fit to make? Mm-hmm. And then it gets you that much more invested in whatever the project is. And so I think that that's also a sort of leg up that can't be replicated unless someone has like that sort of backlog over time of showing that that's their process.
Yeah. Can we talk a little bit about the sort of theme and the visual conceit of your special? Like, first of all, why the Wiltern? I'm curious.
So I think the Wiltern matched a lot of how do I put this? In the very beginning of the special, you have that Basquiat quote with like my little tag add on to it and everything.
Great.
And I feel like what we try to do over the course of the special is those things. And so I think that the Wiltern, being incredibly beautiful and being a complement to the set design that we wanted to have, made the whole thing feel a bit more immersive. And then as far as sound in the Wiltern, it was really good and everything. So I'm very thankful that it was able to come together in that way.
How did the sort of symphony concept come to you? And what can you tell us about sort of like some of the basic visual framework that you played around with this?
Yeah. So I look at music as being incredibly, I guess immersive is still a word I would use, but like it is so all-encompassing and timeless at the same time in a way that it's very hard for comedy to be. Comedy is very like of its moment, like you go back and you watch old comedy from the 70s, and whether it's the dialect mixed with the verbiage that people use, like there are just so many things, the references, there's so many things that can date comedy. And so if you really want to make something that has a level of staying power and interest over time, I think it has to have elements in it that are a bit more universal altogether. And I find with music, you have that without even intending it. There are people who write songs about certain topics that then when you talk to them after everything you've pulled away, whether it's from the lyrics or just from the melody or whatever, the song means something to you and you connect with it for a certain reason. And then you talk to that person, right? You'll be like, this song means so much to me, and like it really helped me when I was having a breakup, and I think like the sort of unrequited love that you touch on in the song is something that everybody's been through. And then you'll talk to the songwriter and they'll be like, this song is about heroin. Do you know what I mean? Like this, wow, you missed the mark. But it can be about whatever it's about to the people. It's a bit harder to do that with comedy and storytelling, because what you're talking about is what you're talking about, and people like it or they don't, or they get it or they don't. And so I think having something that intertwines those two things opens up your means of interpretation to what something is, in a way that just the straight conversation doesn't always. And we even hid some Easter eggs in there, so hopefully people who return over and over again can like notice certain things. Yeah,
there's something interesting about experiencing it almost especially in vignettes. Like it's a different emotional effect, right? Like that's how it seems to me.
Yeah, and just how you structure a set, and I look at the sequencing of a set a lot like I look at the sequencing of an album. There are some songs that genuinely, because of how you listen to them, and we're from an era where people still listen to at least some albums, like it, and not just particular drops, like Kendrick drops and you listen to the whole album top to bottom, or your favorite artist drops and you listen to the whole thing top to bottom. But no one's doing that for everybody anymore. We're very clip driven, singles driven, like moment driven society on social, and how we share things in pieces. And so I think that sequencing is so important, because you look back to your favorite album when you were a kid, especially if in your 30s and up, and there are some songs that genuinely, you put them on a playlist and they genuinely sound wrong if the next note you hear isn't the note from the album. Mm-hmm. And I think that with music, it just has such a strong tie-in to how we spend our time and how we feel about the time that we've spent doing something. There are some ways that you can lock in when you're listening to music or when music's playing in the background that don't exist in pure conversation. And so I think that using it as an add-on and as a partner in what I'm doing gives it a little bit more life, and it gives it a more interesting look and makes the special a bit more unique.
Totally.
Like that's what I was hopefully going for, is that this is something that people have never seen before, and that it's more memorable that way.
There's something so special, and refreshing about, like, sort of in line with what you're saying about just the patience with which you approach things, specifically because the culture we live in now, it's just like you have so much in your head all the time. It's just like an endless onslaught of data and imagery and whatever, and to just like have the conviction to just take your time with what you're doing and to enjoy the time, I think is really cool. Like, was there ever any sort of force pushing against you in that sense? Like, did you ever worry about sort of taking that approach and going against the grain, I guess, like with your work?
I think there's always going to be a little bit of concern that you try to do something different and it's not well received, or it hasn't been done. Some things haven't been done because they're a bad idea. Like, that's a very fair assessment. You know what I mean? Like, there's a reason people aren't walking around with like peanut butter and pickle sandwiches, you know? But I also look at everything that's ever pushed me forward or been interesting to me or something that inspired me was a little different. And I think if you broke it down by percents, whether you're out here being 1% different, 5% different, or 50% different, you know, you could either, one, help inspire the next idea that is different and good, or you could just be part of that tapestry of things that it may not even seem that big of a deal to you, but what you stumble upon, or what your work helps to what your work helps to push forward, is that sort of like tapestry of how involved and inspired we all are by each other. You know, there's a big mix in there. And so I think that one of the jobs of any creative is to, whether it's just through their personal work or through collaboration, to be a part of that tapestry and to make sure that it stays as beautiful to watch as it was when you came across it. Like, I think comedy is this incredible art form. So if I can in any way be a part of it, or be like a memorable aspect of something that helped change it for the better. And that's not to say that I'm like some sort of, you know, some sort of individual that only sees everything as needing to change. I just see it as, if I can be a part of something that is what my like heroes did, then that's amazing. Which is a bit of a rambly answer, but yeah.
Love it. The special is in a large part about, it's about harmony, and it's about community, and about coming together, and sort of the beauty in the world, and sort of sitting and feeling that. I think it's really cool what you've been doing with these weekly drops. I love a ritual personally, like
Sure.
In life, like I like a coming together and an opportunity for that. What are some of the things in your life outside of that make you feel that, where you feel that sense of community and what gets you there?
Outside of
the weekly drops you've been doing, and the
sure.
community you've been building with stand up online.
I mean, that's the main thing that makes me feel that way. You know, like I kind of feel in that sort of like flow or whatever when I'm doing something I love, when I'm reading comic books, or you know, playing chess, or, you know, like fiddling with a Rubik's Cube or whatever, but also just when I'm talking to people. Like, I think that the intention that I have, not just with the special, but like with everything that I do, is like, most people don't feel as great as they are, you know? Like walking around, a lot of people don't feel in sync with their life, and they personally don't feel like their own melody. Like, sometimes there's just this noise that's in your head, and there's this like external, there's like this external disruption that's going on all the time. It's like, whether it's negative news or like negative opinions and stuff like that. And it's not to say that you should just completely shut out what's happening in the world. It's important to be part of the world that you're like in, but you know, if you're in the world, you must be worth the world. And I don't think people walk around with that feeling. And so if I can be a part of that, that means a lot to me, because those are the types of things that I feel like have always saved me from sort of like darker days and everything. Like, I think comedy is something that got me to look at life much differently, to look at every instance of things happening in life much differently. And so the things that bring me real happiness, it's like, yeah, I like my hobbies, but there's nothing like what I'm doing right now. Like, what I'm doing right now in building that community is like, there are very few things I've ever done that made me feel like I was like really living within a purpose and everything, like really like doing the things that I was put here to do. And so, you know, special or not, views or not, like big crowds at shows or not, I think that the things that I do mattering to people is something that's where that overall connection stems from.
Well, let's talk about music, because it's been integral to a lot of what you've done. You put out a mixtape a little while ago featuring music and stand-up. You put out music albums, right? Like, and now you have this comedy Bandcamp tour. So tell me about the role music has played in your life and how it's become so interwoven with what you're doing as a stand-up.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of the conversations I have with musicians, I think that musicians who don't do comedy and comedians who don't do music feel the same way about each other, which is a distance and I think it's a deep respect, but it's like a distance and an awe about what the other person does, because we view the other side as being able to connect with people in a way that we don't. So I literally was having this conversation with a musician where I was like, I don't know, like, right, like, I've written songs before, but I've written songs with like other people in mind, and like I feel like I have not taken a room of silence and created music before. I have been involved with like collaborating with another artist and like helping to not punch up, because I'm not making funny music, but more just like finesse the lyrics and maybe like, oh, we could do a bridge here, and we could, you know, do the chorus one more time here, or this break with no lyrics and just the music is like, I actually think it's perfect, let's leave it. And so I've contributed in those ways, but I don't act like I am some brilliant producer or lyricist all on my own and just all by myself. And so I've been a part of those things before, and just being part of that process, I see music as this like universal connector. And then my friends who do music but don't do comedy see me as being able to speak so plainly to people and have that connect with them, instead of what, you know, one of the issues some of my friends who have done music have is that they could have people who really love one of their songs, but they just, at the end of the day, they just love the beat. They haven't even really paid attention to the lyrics, and they don't know what the song's about, and they poured a lot of their heart into that song. And so to have the mark missed feels like not fully honoring their creative work. And for me, I think that the bringing together of these two things and what it could give an audience, I mean, it has yet to be seen in the way that I'm trying to do it, which is one of the reasons I'm trying to do it. Like, there's been music and comedy showcases before and everything, but I think that bringing the two together in a way that's like incredibly intentional, my hope is to give people an experience that is rare. And I think that music and expression through music are things that almost feel like, I don't know how to describe it, but it almost feels like this like religious experience when you are connecting with a song with other people. And I think that obviously I would like to get to that place in my storytelling. I'd like to get to that place in the jokes that I write and everything. But I also have an understanding of like where I'm at as a creative and the things I need to learn to get where I'd like to be. And I think using music and lending as much of myself as I can to the artists that I work with is going to create a whole new thing. It's not like a mix of two things. It's like a whole new idea, and presenting that to people in a way that might feel a little foreign at first, but then once you get into it, feels like, hopefully feels a version of familiar.
Who are some of the musicians that have been most influential for you?
I think it's been a lot of like change. I'd say that like some of it is like a Miles Davis and some like Billie Holiday, and then I Kendrick I think has been really influential in how I at least approach writing, because I think that he is at least in an era of creation where more and more people might throw their hands up and say like, well, AI is going to take everything, or and it's like none of that. I don't know him, and I've never had a conversation with him, but at least from the outside looking in, none of that stops him, and he still endeavors to connect with his community as much as possible through his art. And I think that those are brave and bold things to do in a time where we all seem a bit like outmanned and like we're up against these giants of industry, of tech. I mean, like, to a degree the law's already on their side. Like, it can be a really disheartening time to be any form of creative. Mm-hmm. And the people who persevere through that, I think, are going to lend us some of the most important work. Mm-hmm. Other people who have influenced me, I mean, I think Jimi Hendrix as well, because when you have a talent for something and you like fully dive into it, there's a way, like when I think about like Jimi Hendrix on guitar or something, I'm like, there are elements of what is talent and then what is deep work. And I look at like Jimi Hendrix or Freddie Mercury as people who all have that. And then some of it isn't even from music. I mean, some of it's genuinely from like even fighting. Like sometimes you'll watch like a combat sport, you watch a box or something like that, and the way that they have dedicated themselves to like a level of craft is like, it's like nothing you've ever seen. And so I think especially in the face of, I'm up against a less scary thing when I like try to apply craft or try to get better. It's like they get better at
by getting hit in the face.
Yeah, at the risk of like extreme and swift consequences.
I was just watching this documentary you need to see on HBO. I mean, I thought I'd seen like every kind of climbing documentary, but there's this documentary, I'm forgetting the name right now, but about this guy Dean Potter, and it's like he talks throughout, the theme is the death consequence. He's a guy who's free soloing, and even went past that and was like free basing, which is a thing he came up with, where he would free solo like without ropes some places he should not, and then should he fall, he can base jump off of it with a parachute. And he would like, so if he falls from the rock, he's like, he flips back and then ends up turning it into something else. And he's like also walking on ropes. So it's just like, it's transcendent. That's a piece of art you should check out. Yeah. No, I think that there's an ease with which when you create things that you can get so in your own head about your potential like consequences or your potential failures that it completely distracts you from the fact that there are people that like they could die doing it. Like, and that made him feel alive. He channeled that. That's what was interesting. It's like being able to ride the wave of consequence. It's kind of fascinating.
Yeah.
Let me think. So in terms of the creation of the special, do you want to talk a little bit about your work with Jacob Banash, like a lifelong friend of yours? And I was curious also, you had like a lighting design degree. Has that ever factored into your actual work in the...
No, not well.
So I could see you like maybe visually directing what you're doing or something.
When it comes to lighting, I feel like my talent for it was limited, even where like my understanding of it sort of like superseded the level of talent that I had for it. And so, you know, when I left college, I moved to Chicago, and that was kind of the choice. It's like I could either go as deep as possible into lighting design and try to like get on something off Broadway or go union or something like that, or I could do stand up, and I'd always really loved stand up, and so I chose that instead. So I don't really lend too much of an opinion on the lighting often. I guess if I see something that seems like a genuine mistake, I'll say something, or something that might look bad, but I don't really have to worry about that. Like, you know, like Jacob has a real understanding of lighting as well, and definitely more of an understanding of lighting on camera than I do, because I had only ever really studied lighting for the stage and stuff.
Sure.
But yeah, I met Jacob Menacci when we were really little. We were like 4 years old, and we've been friends ever since, you know, like been best friends for a really long time. And so to be able to create with someone that you're so close with, who like has an understanding of your sort of like, in, I don't know, like you come up with a coded language after a certain amount of time. And so I think that made the process not just more fulfilling, but like much easier to know that I was working with someone who cared about the final look as much as I did, and like really crossing the finish line the way that we felt was important to us as much as I did.
Right.
Yeah. And so I'm thankful that I get to work with him. You know, he also directed the Up Here Killing Myself special, and he works on a bunch of my YouTube as well. And so I feel very fortunate, like very blessed that we get to work together so often.
Yeah, it's pretty cool to have a friend by your side where in your work. Well, I wanted to circle back to your writing process, because the reputation you have is just like you are the most prolific person in comedy, I think, right now, and you're doing something that no one else would even try to do. Like, and it seemed like these topical sets, did that start during the pandemic?
They actually started more during the writer strike.
Oh, the writer strike. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've always written a lot, and that was a thing that some people knew it. Like in Chicago, people knew that I wrote a lot, because when I was doing open mics and doing shows, I wasn't repeating that often. And then some people had started to notice it when I moved to New York, but I had never really put it into practice, because I got my Comedy Central half hour in like 2017, and then took that opportunity to, even though I did a half hour, you know, you got an album deal along with the half hour special. And so I made my album like a full hour, and I know some people chose not to do that, but in my mind I was like, well, here's a place for it to go, and I don't want to do these things until I get my hour special, because who knows when that'll be. And so I think it was just about changing my attitude towards what giving looked like. And I don't think I was necessarily being like withholding or anything. I just wasn't sure that there was any space or any sort of interest in me sharing that much. And so once I finally started to do it, you know, I was out of work and everything, and so I thought, oh, let's give it a try. And I have these things that I know I won't want to be preparing for a special or something, and I also know that the time to do them when they are their funniest. I almost look at some of the sets I've put out, like I think that some of them have some real longevity and are sort of evergreen, and you can usually tell which ones these are, but like some of them are so much like fruit where they're very ripe for the moment.
Right. And it's gonna fade.
Yeah, and then it's like, why would I hold on to this joke about Trump going to China for a year until, you know, and now it's like, now it's harder, because now you have to like remind people that Trump went to China, and it's like, and when did Trump go to China, and which time are we talking about?
This is the whole juxtaposition of your work, and what we're talking about is like, you with your special put out something that's timeless and moves at a slower pace, and takes its time, but at the same time we're living in a culture that's moving at hyper speed. It's like, doesn't it feel like things are moving faster than they've ever moved? It's like almost hard to just keep up with everything.
Yeah, it is, but I think some of those things are choices. Like, I think that people talk about attention spans, right? And I understand that, like, on the general level, including myself, the regular person's attention span is not that long. But that's also when they're not being engaged by something that they're really interested in.
Right.
I think deep interest and deep work are things worth mining for. And I think that when you have that connection, people are engaged for a certain amount of time. You know, you look at people talking about the shortest attention spans in human history, or whatever people say, and then you see Joe Rogan has like a 3-hour podcast that people finish. You know, so it's like, where is that lack of attention span in finishing it? Like, maybe they don't finish it all in one session, but they're still interested enough to come back until this 2.5 hour, 3-hour thing is over. And I think that is a testament right there to, like, you know, if you're interested in a thing, you will engage with it on a deeper level. But you're taking that to a different level, like, of absorption. Yeah.
It's like, what is the lifestyle look like to produce this much, and then, you know, to absorb so much from culture, and then also preserve some mental headspace for yourself.
Yeah.
While working on the Daily Show and doing all this other stuff.
Sure. I mean, I think that a lot of it comes down to, what it is you're passionate about. And I think that I've actually had a couple conversations about this, where there's like passion, and then there's obsession, and then there's just like a rigorous like schedule, you know? Mm-hmm. And at any given point, one of those three things might keep you doing something that seems like too much. But I think that to be like in what I at least hope is a healthy pursuit of my goals, I have to be pretty much in it every day. And that doesn't feel like some sort of stressor or some sort of like, I don't feel like Sisyphus or something like that, because I really do enjoy what I'm doing. And I think that if there was a world where I was doing all this so that one day I didn't have to do it, or I was doing all this so one day I could do something else, then yeah, I think the schedule would beat you down, and the what next of it would beat you down. But because this is what I want to be doing, you know, I think it's sort of it's more than just a blessing. Like, if you talk to, I keep bringing up chess a lot in conversations, but it's just because I'm not good at it yet. But it's like, you look at someone who is incredible at chess, especially, let's say you're a kid as well. So let's say you actually have the time in the day to engage with chess as almost as much as you want. Maybe you go to school, but then you've got hours and hours after school to like play chess if that's what you feel like doing. And let's say you're a chess prodigy. So now people notice you for being good at chess, right? Mm-hmm. I don't know if we sit down and ask that kid if he's playing so much chess so that one day he can run for office. It's more like, I think you're just doing the thing that you really like doing. And maybe you're doing it to get better, but even in your pursuit of getting better, there's still a lot of joy in it. And I think that for me to be the kind of creative that I aim to be, I have to be as like dedicated as possible, and have to be as like relentless as possible, because, you know, we only have the time that we have.
Right.
And so, you know, I'm not saying people shouldn't and don't need their breaks and their relief and like to take care of their mental health and stuff. But I think that people might have a slight misunderstanding about what my schedule and what I do means to me versus what it looks like to the outside world, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Yeah.
But what is a week for you look like?
Oh, got you. Was that the initial question? I'm so sorry if that was the initial question.
Partly,
and I went on forever. Oh my gosh.
Well,
okay.
I want to get into like the rigors and just like how you absorb so much, and how you export it, essentially. It's just
Sure.
get it out.
Yeah, I mean, one, I think if you go on lots of walks, you're alone with your thoughts enough to know how you feel about things. Two is just like taking in a lot of news, which is not, that's something I don't recommend to anyone. That's actually,
I live inside the news, and it's like, as a journalist, it's like,
that is bad.
Understand.
Yeah, like that will tear your mind up being like in the news too much. Like it's actually that if we're talking like belt to butt, that is what it would do to your brain to just be in the news all the time. But I read a lot of news, I watch a lot of news, and then I also just try to do a lot of like processing as it goes. It's like if it's a Monday, I'm usually getting back into town in New York if I'm not already there, and then I'll either record a podcast or just do some general like writing and everything. Mm-hmm. Tuesday is when the set comes out, and so that's just making sure that all the technical aspects are there and that we're uploaded on time and everything. And then Wednesday has a little bit of like, all right, what do I think I want to talk about this weekend? Because I'm on the road most weekends. Yeah. And so it's like, what do I want to talk about this weekend? What's going on in the world? And then what's going on in the world versus like what I actually want to talk about.
There's a lot going on in the world. You need to narrow it down a little bit. Yeah.
So just because something's happening doesn't mean that it will be an interesting thing to talk about or that I have something to bring to the table. Right. You know, so I try to be aware of that, because you also don't want to just be saying something to say something. And so then Wednesday and Thursday are usually a lot of that, like taking in just general news and stuff that's happening. Working on takes if there is something I were to cover and everything. Friday is usually the first set of shows, 1 or 2 shows. Do those shows, see how I feel about them. Sometimes something happens on a Friday, and then I'm like, oh, I actually feel like talking about this, and I'll write about it all night on Friday, and then on Saturday wake up and do a little bit more, and then bring that to the Saturday shows. But in a dream sort of scenario, if you're talking about the video, obviously getting it on Friday is like the best thing in the world, because now you can just be like, you can keep doing that set, or you can have fun doing some other stuff, or you could work on a couple of ideas that you feel like, all right, these need massaging. Mm-hmm. And then Sunday, I either still have a show or that's a travel day. And so then Sunday I will use to get back to New York if I don't have the shows. If I have the shows, I'll use Monday to get back to New York. And then you just sort of repeat. And then the show schedule at Daily Show is fairly concise. It's like you're there Monday through Thursday, and you could, if you're not hosting, you could be on the show any one of those days. And then that's kind of it. So it does end up taking up all your time. And I guess if you wanted a day to just truly do nothing, then it's like, I guess I'd say I take like a day off like a month, because then every month, just so how it happens, it's like, let's say you're on the road 3 weeks out of the month, and then that 4th week you're not on the road and you don't have any commitments, because sometimes you have to shoot a field piece for Daily Show or something like that. So on a day that I actually don't do like anything is kind of rare. I'd say it comes around like once a month or whatever. And yeah, on that day, admittedly, I read a bunch of comic books, play some chess, watch a movie. Like, I love watching movies as well, but I get so much joy out of the time in between as well. So I don't want people to think I'm just like locked in a room doing nothing but writing all day. It's like, you know, you also write off of your experiences. And I think going on these long walks, you know, if I get off early from the show, I'll just like go for a walk, and then, you know, I may not be home for hours, but I'll walk, and, you know, maybe I meet somebody, have a conversation with them. And I think that keeping life as like open as possible is what builds and breeds a lot of inspiration.
Sure. Do you feel like your time at the Daily Show has sharpened your skill set further? Like, what has it given you that's unique? Because it's like, it seems like a unique kind of gym to take what you're doing as a stand-up or whatever even further.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that Tonight Show made it so that I write a lot and write a lot fast. Because when I was there, I was on monologue team, and so I was just writing consistently. Like, and this is all so you can get a few jokes on. You know, there's only so much time in the monologue as well, and you're around a bunch of other talented people. So it's like you're not just writing for the sake of like, oh, let me write, 300 jokes so that Jimmy might pick 3. It's like, no, I have to write like 175 like bangers, because I also have other team of people writing really great jokes and really like funny, memorable things. So you just that kind of taught me to not be so precious. And then Daily Show really is what shaped me from the place of figuring out how to make stories that were very specific and foreign, universal, and easy to understand in a short amount of time. When something happens in the world that we cover on the show, we have to both like assess how much we know about it, learn about it, figure out how to write a show that explains it to people and make it funny, all in whatever, like a 8-hour-ish day. And that is it's no small task. I know that at the show, when I'm hosting, I have the support of everyone that's in the building, which is a lot of people who are very good at what they do, and they built their like craft and they've just built their experience over a long period of time. Like, they really know what's going to work. And for stand-up, the way it translated for me and the way that it helped me was just like, one, when I got hired and just watching Trevor, and then two, now being a host versus watching all the other hosts rotate, I'm watching a lot of in real time, doing those things even quicker, assessing what the situation is, how can we explain it in a way that's funny and make a really good show. And so then I've taken that sort of skill set that I built over time and then applied it to the things that I specifically find interesting. There are stories, sometimes there's an overlap with what Daily Show puts out and what I put out, but a lot of times there's no overlap. A lot of times there's like this very specific thing I am obsessed with. And I think that in an obsession, you can, with the right communication, in a level of obsession, you can get people to see why you're obsessed with that thing. Even if they don't end up liking it, like I look back at, I remember when there was that remember that Chase money glitch from either last year or the year before? But it was a thing that was happening where people were able to withdraw more than they had in their account for a short amount of time. And I was like, do you mean wire fraud? Because that's wire fraud. And I couldn't believe how many people didn't know what wire fraud was. And so I'm like, all these people went and did wire fraud, and worse than doing wire fraud, they recorded themselves doing wire fraud to show you could do wire fraud at Chase at an ATM. and then of course they're getting arrested and stuff. And so I'm like, please do not do wire fraud. Like, I'm at the show, because the thing was still happening while I was at the show. But then it opens up so many possibilities. It's like, okay, you're going to do a set about this very specific thing that's only happening right now, because Chase packed that whole thing up quickly, right? It's only happening right now, but it opens you up to a couple things. One, stories about fraud, which are usually pretty interesting and funny. Any personal experience you have with being fraud, or like being like defrauded or something like that, and then three, just like how the rules are different. Because that's a conclusion that I came to, and my overall take in the set was about how, like, there is a Chase money glitch for rich people. Like, rich people straight up do unadulterated fraud all the time, and then they actually do so much fraud that it's like normal to us. And then if they are removed enough from the fraud that they did and now have a net worth that is above what they pretended to have for the fraud, they'll admit to the fraud. So someone who is like a billionaire today will actually openly tell you about a time that they got a loan on their property, and they essentially did fraud. They said that the property was worth, they got somebody to appraise it for double what it was actually worth, just so they could get the loan, just so they could make the business move, and it all worked out. And we look at that as like American ingenuity and like just having to move fast and break things, and it's like, that's fraud. And it's like, and it's somehow the rules only apply to the poor. Like the rules only apply to the poor, and the rules are only like barefaced to the people who don't have the like social or privilege protections to sidestep consequence. And that part drives me crazy. And so it's like, can I make that funny? And can I tie that into this Chase wire fraud thing? Because all those people did get caught, and either had to give the money back or got a little bit of jail time. It's like that, and that's an insane thing. You might look at those people and be like, you're so stupid for recording yourself doing wire fraud. But then who do we end up looking up to? We look up to people who openly tell you on the news that they did fraud. Like when Trump was having his whole New York case, and then there were millionaires that went on like Fox Business and stuff to defend him, and they were like, we all do that. I'm like, shut up. Don't tell people you do fraud. He's literally on trial right now. Don't tell people we all do fraud. Like, that's a dumb thing to do. You know?
It's a good special tip. We all do fraud.
Yeah.
Can you tell me about the period between, college and the Daily Show, or between college and your first special? Like, how did you build yourself up to where you are, where you're like selling out this tour this past year with like what I was told was zero promoter marketing money? Like, how did it come to this place, and what did things look like sort of pre and post Daily Show?
So after college, I moved to Chicago, and the time I spent in Chicago was like essential. I started doing comedy there, was doing like showcases, open mics. I got passed at my first few clubs, and I got my first few college dates and everything. And that really took me to the place where once I hit a ceiling in Chicago, I had like three options. Like, I could stay in Chicago and still probably get better, but I was learning from fewer people and from fewer encounters than I was when I first got there. And so I could either move to LA, but I think moving to LA, especially at the time, because we're talking still like 2015, where there was still like some semblance of a pilot season and some semblance of like overall deals in the way that we used to have an understanding of the business and everything. Yeah. But I really wanted to pursue stand-up, and so New York made the most sense. And so I moved to New York and actually sent in a tape to be on the Tonight Show. And the head writer at the time liked my tape, and so asked my manager at the time if I was interested in submitting a packet. And so I submitted a couple packets and got that job. And I was at Tonight Show for a little bit. I left and pursued this pilot that obviously didn't get picked up because you don't know me from it. And then I was just touring for a little bit. I was just kind of out there doing as many weekends as I could get, which wasn't many. And then I got hired at Daily Show. And I've been at Daily Show ever since, but a lot happened while I was at Daily Show. So about a year in my time there, maybe a year and change, Trevor asked me to open for him on the road. And so I opened for Trevor while being at the show for 3-ish years, maybe even almost a little bit more because the pandemic interrupted some of that. And so like 4 years. And that's what really opened my eyes and my mind up to a grueling schedule, because that guy works. Like I would be with him at the show all week, and then we would go do his shows on the road, and I only had to do like 12 minutes. He had to do like a show. He had to do like an hour plus.
Man.
And then I'd come back with him and Vince August, and it was like Sunday was like his only day off. And even on Sundays, he sometimes still had things to do. He still had responsibilities and everything. And so that getting used to that schedule, especially over time, made it so I'm not as fazed by what I'm doing now, because it looks like a lot, but it's like it's not a lot compared to what he was doing. You know, he was the only one hosting the show, and so he had to host the show all week, and then he had to go on the road and do stand up, and then come back, and then, you know, even on a hiatus week, he might be promoting the show. And so that really opened my eyes up to what it would take to reach a level of proficiency is probably the best word. It's like to reach a sort of next level in what you're creating and the type of creator that you are. And so I think that was a wake-up call that I had to, like, even again rededicate myself to what it was that I was intending to do. And then from there, I got my first special on Comedy Central, which Trevor produced. And then I started to post the weekly sets, which led to more interest from people and the ability to do more shows. So then it wasn't as hard to get a weekly set, because it didn't have to just be any spot that I could get. It was more about like actually being on the road doing my shows.
And so what was the most instrumental in getting to this place where you're just like moving a ton of tickets?
I think YouTube has been
that's what I was curious about. Like, that's so interesting, isn't it? Like, because I talked to Pete Holmes about that too, and it's like, for him it was a podcast rather than he had his own late night show, and he had his own HBO scripted show, and it was the podcast that was the thing that like was leading. That's kind of fascinating. A reflection of where we're at now. I think
that there used to be a little bit of there just used to be more of a monoculture around how people discovered things. And I'm not saying that the internet, like, I'm actually not of the opinion that the internet fully like democratized that type of attention, because you still have algorithms and you still have people trying to, in small ways in their work, try to game the system a little bit to get and hold that bit of attention, so you don't scroll away, or so you don't click away, or so you click the next thing. And so I think that's why I don't think it's fully democratized. Like, you may have gotten rid of some gatekeepers, but now like the actual like attention economy is its own gatekeeper a little bit. And so I think everyone's going to come across their people differently. So for some people it will be just straight up TikTok. For some people it will be this platform, and then some people will be a body of work like a podcast.
In terms of tickets, it seems like you've been very mindful about scalpers and the pricing of your tickets. That's a cool thing to see. Like, tell me about the thought behind that, and like what has driven you to be sort of mindful of your fans in a certain way.
Yeah, I mean, I've been in a position before where I couldn't afford anything. So I know what it's like to really want to go to a show and not have the money and everything. And so it's like, if you want to bring people shows that are spectacular and like experiences that are memorable, it's going to take some money. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're going to, even if you tried to put that type of show on for free, you'd only be able to get 4 or 5 in before you're like, okay, I'm in the hole, right?
Were you doing this special like that, by the way, elsewhere, like with the whole production of it?
No. I had saved that specifically for the taping.
Okay, gotcha.
But yeah, I just look at how unfair it is as well. It's like
because it's getting to a crazy place with tickets where comedy is so hot. Like, some comedians are charging like an insane amount of money to like go to these shows. Like, the ticket prices they've gotten super high.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think that there's a a balance that can be struck, and I don't know how much I don't know if a lot of capitalism really lends itself to any form of balance. And so I think that, you know, trying to strike a balance between giving people a memorable spectacle and giving them something that they can affordably do is already something that I don't think most people are thinking about. I think there are some people out there, and I'm not even naming names. I'm literally just like thinking back to experiences I've had with tickets where they're like, I'm going to give people such an amazing show that they won't mind that they had to choose between this thing and a bunch of other things, because I'm going to make the show so big and so good. And I'm not going to worry about the secondary market stuff, because if anything, that tells me what I should be charging and blah, 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 right? Mm-hmm. And I just find that, like, man, you don't have to, like, live greedy. There's a thing we've done now as Americans that, like, we can't even tell we're sick. Like, we can't even tell that we're thinking greedy, because it's just like business. But then why doesn't this business work anywhere else? Mm-hmm. Like, why, like other places protect their consumers. Mm-hmm. And I'm talking actual from like a government standpoint. Right. They're like, you will not do this. And those places don't. We tell ourselves, we spin this sort of lie that if we tell any corporation, if we tell any business, hey, that's enough, then all of society will crumble and we'll be eating rats the next day. When actually all the places we want to visit already do this stuff. That's what I always point to. I'm like, you talk about telling a company what to do with their money and how to spend it, or putting up regulations, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, but you want to go to Iceland. You want to go, you know what I mean? Like, you want to go to these places that do all the stuff you say that will crumble if we do. Mm-hmm. And so I think that having a fair ticket price, and having a ticket price that sort of reflects, sure, a little bit of what the quote unquote market demand is, but also, like, not just grabbing, like, and trying to scoop up any money that's on the table. You know, I'm doing this because this is what I want to be doing, which means I also want to be doing it 20 years from now. And if I want to be doing it 20 years from now, what sense does it make to try to gouge people 2 years into me doing it at the level that I think I can do it for 20? Sure. You know what I mean? Like, some things that seem like good capitalism are just bad business. Like, that's to me, that's horrible business, to be like, I'm going to gouge people as much as I can every single time, and then just hope they come back every single time. It's like, you haven't been alive that long then. Yeah. You haven't been paying attention. Especially, you got us in a situation as, like, a country where we don't know what tomorrow's going to be like as far as resources and people's money. Like, I'm very concerned about people's money, and so I try to put on the best possible show I can that's really, like, something special. But still, if there's a way to figure out how to make it more affordable, that's what I'm actively trying to do. Whether that's going to the promoter and being like, hey, can we do something here? Can we finagle this thing? And then sometimes you go to the venue and you're like, hey, your facility fee is, like, too high. Like, I cannot do the show here if your facility fee is this crazy.
Right. And it's this is part of what I asked you about this whole, like, what Ticketmaster versus DOJ thing. Like, yeah. It just feels like there are things set up in the system that it's, like, hard to get around. Like,
yeah,
this whole the system is set up to be kind of greedy, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, there's no other way to put it. It's like you have a system that is set up through protections in the law that they've probably lobbied for years, that they are only falling short of because it was actually up to a jury. Because I'm sure with the right finagling, you can get the right judge and you can get the right case, and it can go before whoever it needs to go before to become pretty final. You know what I mean? And then you have free reign. And in this scenario, they came across, like, people who probably would like to go to a show. And so then they got found to be a monopoly. And so I don't know under this administration, especially if it's going to be broken up or if they're going to be penalized or if they're going to be stopped in any sort of way that is deeply meaningful to the overall ticket buyer, like the everyday consumer. But I know that we are not alone in how we feel about this thing. The only people that like it are the people that make money from it, and they are vastly outnumbered by the people that they're screwing over. So as long as we can, and with as much force as is possible, I think you have to find a way to sort of like sidestep the structure of the system. And that's hard while you're in it. It's like if you're going to a place and you want to service the people who want to come. Let's say 1,000 people want to come to the show in Tampa. Well, okay, should I just do 4 shows that have a 250 cap? Maybe so. But if I can only be there one night and we can't fit in the 4 shows, maybe I can do 3. Yeah. And 3 is possible. I've done 3 shows in a night before. Wow. But then 4 is just like, it becomes impossible. So then maybe that venue is just too small. The next venue up, are we having these issues? Because that's the other problem with like Ticketmaster, Live Nation, also buying venues, because now it's like right. I don't even have this third party to try to cut a deal with for the sake of the people coming to the show, because I have this sort of like 3-headed entity that to talk to one is to talk to the other 2 who are done no favors by the one doing you the favor. And so it's a tough thing to navigate, but it is possible. And like one of the things that would even be great if I were a bigger figure is that I could throw more weight around. But you know, you do what you can with what you have in the moment.
You have made choices where it's like venue wise where you're just like, I'm not going to go with this venue because of this stuff?
Yeah. Especially there are things that like, and this is what I mean about us not even recognizing sometimes that like something is a straight up sickness instead of it being the thing that makes money so it makes sense. It's like, that's just not true. Like, you even have sometimes small independent venues seeing what the bigger venues are doing and copying it because now they know that people are used to it. So now you'll see a small venue be like, oh, we have a $17, you know, ticketing fee or what? Yeah, like we have
like
this
a club?
Like a club. We'll have like this credit card fee or whatever, and I'm like, what is this?
Oh my god!
And they're like, oh, that's to process, that's to take care of. I'm like, no, it wasn't, because it wasn't here last year, and y'all been open for 20 years. So where is this? You know? And so then that's when you have to make the decision. It's like, you cannot walk away from every place, or else you just won't be doing shows and you won't be servicing the people who want to come see your work. But you can, in some instances, walk away from some things. And then your ability and your persistence with walking away ends up being the thing between whether or not people want the money. Because as an example, I was in a situation years ago where I was doing some shows, and then there was someone who wanted to, on their side, they wanted to add a show because they saw how fast the like 4th or something show sold out. And so they wanted to add a show. And I was like, okay. And then they wanted to add the show for like a higher price. And I was like, no, that doesn't make any sense. Why would I add the show for the higher price and make these people pay more? And it's like, well, no, we have it on good authority that like you would sell out in however many minutes or whatever. I'm like, I don't care about that. Why would I charge these people more? So then they were in this position where they were like, yeah, but we, in my opinion, just they got greedy and they realized like they got a number in their head of what that show would look like sold out at the number that they set, and then they were almost haggling with me to keep the price the same because they thought they felt like they'd be losing money if they didn't increase it. But there's no money yet. And this is where greed makes you like dumb, because there's no right now there's no money. And you're arguing with me over this money versus this money. And I'm telling you, there's not going to be any more money unless it's this money. And they're like, no, we want it to be this money or there's nothing. And I'm like, well, you can have nothing. And so I came and I did my shows and I had a good time. And you know what I mean? Like, it was all fine. But that was an instance of like, you must be out of your mind to be obsessed with money that isn't here yet, that you won't get if you're being too greedy. It's literally the hand in the cookie jar, you know? And so that's an instance where you do have the power to walk away from something, because my leverage is that I've already sold out. So I've shown you that I can sell out. So now let's sell out under terms that I feel like are fair, which is literally just keeping the price the same. And then your obsession with increasing the price is why I'm not like, now you made less money. If you didn't like this money versus this money, now you have this money because you didn't get the extra show. Because I was like, I'd rather come back and do it with another venue than have you gouge the people that I said, like, leave it alone, you know?
Right.
And so those are small decisions, and like, you know, you do your best. Like, I'm sure as I'm learning about different ticketing things, different breakdowns of contracts and stuff like that, I'm sure I'm making all sorts of mistakes that I'm trying to learn from. Like, nobody is going to be perfect. And then, one of the reasons that this whole suit had to go to court is because artists were running out of options. You can't say no to every venue, and then there are going to be these practices that are just like industry standard now that are unfair to either you or your people or both. And then you're gonna have to figure out a way to work within that system to change it. So it's disappointing sometimes, but I'm hopeful that through a connection with the people over the email list, like I always tell people, go to my site to buy the ticket. Don't do this like third party whatever.
That's becoming a powerful tool for comics, right?
I'm like, come to my site, go to joshjohnsоncomedy.com. I'll tell you where the tickets are on sale. You'll be able to use that link and know that you're getting a ticket. I want to see people scalped. I want to see people buying fake tickets and stuff like that. And then I tell them, join the email list. So then that way we can email you when the thing is happening. And it won't just be like, sometimes you see something on social and then a lot of people click the first thing they see when they Google it or when they whatever. And now you've bought a thing for $50 more than you needed to, or and sometimes 50 is generous. I've seen people like buy for much higher. And that's why I'm like, these two things are the best two things that for the time being that I have at my disposal.
What do you think about the future of late night? Like, where are we headed? As a young person who's working within this system right now, like the Late Show cancellation was a pretty stunning moment. Like, I feel like he's been on the air, Colbert, as long as I've been alive or something. You know, it's just like, where do you see this heading?
I mean, I don't think that the actual like future of late night and variety shows is in any danger. I think that there is going to be some form of adjustment around how it's packaged and presented, but I think that there's still quite an appetite for it, and I think that the people that enjoy it and sometimes enjoy it because of its nicheness in entertainment, but I think that it's going to form up in new ways, and that we will probably look back on this time and probably look back on the last couple years as like, whether people know it or not, they are doing this thing. And I think that is like the best estimate that I can give at the moment. Like, I think that more of it's going to come to the internet, and I think that
a lot more is going to YouTube, it seems like.
A lot more is going to YouTube, and I think that people are going to be making their own versions of like lean, mean shows and stuff like that. But I also think that the growth of a staff is never a bad thing if it's done with complete intention. You know, I think it's very easy. You see this with a lot of startups. Like, a lot of startups will get excited because they got their series money, and they can hire a this and a that person that they don't even have anything for them to do right away and stuff like that. And I feel like those things can be detrimental to an overall business. But when you look at a late night show and you look at all the jobs that can be filled in a late night show, I think all those things are necessary, and you want all the best people to be doing the jobs to the best of their ability. And so I could easily see how a staff grows pretty sizable, because the good and bad thing about the internet is that the internet is also creating in the corporate world, which shouldn't be happening, an expectation of how lean a person vlogging in their room can be. And it's like, I think sometimes people in the corporate world see a streamer get like hundreds of thousands of views and go, well, we should be able to move that lean. And it's like, y'all are doing two different things. And so I find that frustrating sometimes, because once again, that's based off of like a greed. That's not even based off of an efficiency. That's like, oh, well, if we didn't have to pay these people, what would we do with that money? It's like, I bet you wouldn't invest it back in the show. I bet you wouldn't invest it back in the company. I think that's a nice little package for you. I think that when you see people getting fired, you see dollar signs, you know?
Totally. See a lot of that happening right now. Is there more you would want to share about the experience at your comedy Bandcamp tour? It sounded cool. You pitched it as like the summer camp experience you never got, right?
Yeah. So I'm really excited to showcase some of the artists that are going to be with me. Like we've got Butterscotch, Julius Rodriguez. I have a bunch of friends who are in different bands who make music that'll be doing little drop-ins and everything like that. And then I'm just excited for people to... Yeah, I'm excited for people to be a part of it. We got a lot of plans for people to be able to like immerse themselves in the sort of story world in a way that isn't just like I'm coming to town and I'm in town and I left town. So we're gonna have lots of things for people to do that are gonna span the entirety of the tour as well.
The last thing would be top of mind, like one album, one book, and one comic, especially like someone on the newer side or like up and coming, that you might recommend to people right now.
Okay, so one album, there's an artist named Soul Child with the album Rebirth, and if I could cheat really quick,
please. Yeah.
Samara Sin also has Detour out now, and both of those artists are incredible. I think that they are like the future of music, and I think that whenever they drop, people should pay attention. One book, That What You Seek Is Causing You to Seek. It's a book that is like probably my closest to like life-changing book that I read when I was younger and changed a lot of my perspective. And then one comic, I mean, Maddie Weiner is incredible. If you don't know her, you should definitely get familiar. And then Asha Ward is also making really incredible stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Someone for me to check out. Josh, really like what you're doing, and it was a really cool conversation. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me.